it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here for your next PB&J card class, and on today's card we'll be using two of the new Penny Black sets from the Valentines collection, Sweetest Honey and Bed of Roses. And I wanted to create a couple of cards using the negative of die cuts. So for today's class we'll actually be making the card on the left. So to begin, I'm going to ink my white cardstock using, this is called Palette Hybrid Ink Pad, and I'm using Reflection Blue. And I'm using the ink applicator tool with the foam pad, starting off of the edge and working my way on, just as I would do with Distress ink. But I really like the richness of this color. And also the ink pad is fairly juicy, so when we go here to stamp on top of this, it gets a really nice crisp tone-on-tone look. So this is the Bed of Roses stamp, a new clean background from Penny Black. And I'm just inking it with the same color of blue ink that I did my background with. I'm just going to lay that ink side down, hold with one hand and rub with the other. I just put a piece of scratch paper there to protect my hands a little bit. And then we lift that up, you'll see that really nice tone-on-tone look. Now this is a Spellbinders die called Splendid Circles, which I already cut and inked with that same ink pad. I put the ink pad directly onto the die cut. And I've just glued this on here, and I used just a glue stick since there's so many delicate pieces, and then trim the excess off the edges. And now I'm going to take Spellbinders Standard Circles Large, and I'm just going to fit one of those right on the center. And I'm going to put it ridge side down, and then I'll run that through my die cutting machine. And you can see what you do there using the negative of that die cut. It creates a nice fun little frame. So this is the card, and this is another palette ink called Sunflower. And I'm just going to start off of the edge and work my way on. And I was pulling in some of that blue, making a green that I didn't really want. So I'm just going to put some scratch paper underneath, and I'm actually just going to put that ink pad directly to the paper. I'm just seeing how I want to do that. And I think I want most of the yellow to show, so I'm just going to do the whole background. This card is definitely one that changed as I went, so you'll see me trying a few things here as we go. So I decided now that I do want some white back there, so just took a piece of white and I'm marking it there where I want it to go, and I'm just going to adhere that directly onto the background. And then the piece with our circle, this like negative of the die cut, I've popped up on pop dots and put that down. So you get some really great dimension sort of through that circle. So here I decided to go back and add ribbon. It's kind of the theme of this card is going back and adding things later. So I'm just taping it down with regular Scotch tape. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So just peeling that back, taping it down. And then I'll just take some double stick Scotch tape so that actually adheres down at the top. So this is just double-sided tape I'm pulling out here. And I'm going to put that right there so it sticks down, but I still keep the even of the dimension with the pop dots. So it's never too late to go back and add ribbon. So I'm going to stamp this sentiment. You can see there on the card I tried to stamp it in the center of the circle, and I just didn't like that, so I wanted more of an impact. So here I'm going to stamp it on just a piece of white cardstock, which then I will trim into the shape of a banner. And I really decided to do this because I like the idea of part of it being behind that circle that's die cut and the other part sort of lifting outside of it. So it just accents that dimension that we created by doing the die cutting. I can just slide it underneath there and put it down. Then put a couple of pop dots underneath so that it gets a nice sort of swoop to the banner. Now I'm going to do a couple of the bees from the Sweetest Honey set. And on this one, there's a whole piece to this, but I want the larger bee. So I'm just stamping that with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to sprinkle that with clear embossing powder. And then I'll heat to set. And I actually went back and stamped a couple of the smaller ones as well. So once that's been set with the heat gun, I'm coloring it with Copic markers. I'm using Y35 and Y38 for the body, and then BG10 and BG00 for the wings. And I'll do that on all 3 of the bees and then cut them out. And then I'm just going to glue them along the edge of that circle. So again, it's got that dimension part going over the window that's been cut and part on the top of the card. So just putting that only on the body and then gluing those down. And here's another look at that finished card. For the card on the right, I stuck with that same technique of using the negative, the die cut. So I die cut the butterflies and pop them up just like we did with the circular piece on the bees. Thanks so much for watching.